Okay, okay, Tracy. You did not raise your voice, but you improved your argument. No, that was good. So she highlighted the cause of why cash transfers will be relevant and why it will help HIV and in adolescence, by addressing the core root of it at its vulnerable state, and how it increases the cost of unharmful behavior. And now, next up, we're gonna have. Oh, sorry. In the first section, I forgot to say that at the end, we're going to have a rebuttal section where each debater is going to get 1 minute to speak. And just after that, I would like everyone to take out your phone because we are going to vote online. And I was indicated that we only have 30 seconds to vote. So please, please have your phone out when they do their rebuttal section. And now we are going to have Dr. Nadia, who is a pediatrician working in an institute in Nigeria, and she will debate why cash transfers will not work.
All right. Thank you, Leah. You know, I'm in a very hostile environment. I mean, my opponent is from South Africa. You know, actually, she's from Cape Town and works in Cape Town. I mean, even the moderator is South African. The venue is in South Africa. There's a lot of South Africans here. I'm not even from East and Southern Africa. I'm from West Africa. So I'm really kind of alone in the wilderness. But can I get a hello from my West and Central Africans? All right, so I'm kind of in the wilderness here because I'm going to talk about not giving people money. And that is a hard one to sell. I mean, I myself would like some money. I would like some cash transfers. I can give you my Cash App, my Venmo, my Zelle for you to just send me some money. But I'd like to have a few people join me in this wilderness in which I'm standing of talking about not sending people money, but for the purpose of preventing HIV infection. So let's go to the next slide. I can go to the next slide myself here. Yeah. Right, so there's the, without cash transfers, preventing HIV in adolescents will fail, but will it really? Really? We have evidence from other groups, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But then if you think about it, if you think about cash transfers itself, and we are here talking about SDGs in adolescent health, right? So we have, I'd like you to note, first of all, this immediately addresses SDGs 1 and 2, right? No poverty. If you give money, it helps with poverty. No hunger. If you give money, people can buy food, right? And then there is SDG 3, which talks about good health and well-being, but particularly for HIV infection prevention, we are talking about SDG 3.3.1, which is looking at new HIV infections per 1,000 uninfected. And if you think about it, bulk cash transfers actually reduce this. Now, I want us to go and then look at my opponent. You've met her, but I'd like you to see her in a bit of a different light, okay? Because she's presented herself, people are clapping for her and everything. Some ululating might happen later, you know. She's published research in this subject matter, I mean, PhD level work. Me, I don't even have a PhD. I mean, look at this beautiful woman. Don't let the beauty fool you, please. She's telling you some lies. As I said, she's from here. She's from Cape Town. She has home field advantage, which is nice, really nice. I watch a lot of sports, and I know the power of home field advantage. But we move. So everybody likes money, no? Everybody likes money. But does money really solve all problems? Can money solve a health issue? And can it solve that health issue in all contexts? Look at the context I'm talking about here. You see on the left, or on my left, the map showing incidence of HIV per 1,000 uninfected adults, right? And then on the right, you are looking at the World Bank classification for upper, low, and middle income countries. And you can see I've circled some part of Southern Africa, which includes where we are now, South Africa, where my esteemed opponent is from, and then West and Central Africa, or West Africa that I've circled that where I'm from. And you can see that in terms of prevalence, the prevalence of HIV, as she said, and that's one of the few correct things she has said this afternoon, is that it's extremely high. You're seeing it in very dark blue. And then you see the rest of us, in lighter blue. So I'm talking here about prevalence. Prevalence differs, right? And so the strategies that address different HIV incidences and different contexts in terms of prevalence might differ, because there are places that are lower incidence or lower prevalence, and there are places that are higher prevalence or higher incidence. And for me as an implementation scientist, I have to look at strategies that work for certain contexts. And so sometimes what you're talking about, if there's any truth in it, may not necessarily work for contexts outside of South Africa, Southern Africa, or East and South Africa. And we are talking about global strategies here. So you see on the right, in addition to South Africa having a higher prevalence, South Africa is also an upper middle income country. Some of us are they say we are lower upper or lower middle, but that middle even, we are not seeing it. We are not seeing it, okay? But we are certainly not in the same type of income level brackets at the country level. So does that also work for us? She's talking about the child health grant. Talking about this grant, that grant, kiniko, mini. As we say where we are from. We don't even have such grants in our systems. We don't have the funding to be able to do that. So that speaks to issues of sustainability. Where is that money going to come from? A lot of the data is from research studies, research funded. Very nice, beautiful, have graphs, present, like she's presenting here. Beautiful graphs. How do you then put it into program? How do you sustain it? How do you make it something that's routine? That's a problem. So next, what I want to tell you now is that I am not opposing cash transfers for adolescents in general. It would be suicide for me to oppose that. I have 2 adolescents. I send them cash transfers on a regular basis. Regular. I just paid college tuition. So I'm not opposing that. It's good. But for HIV prevention, do we now go and get young people's attention, get their hopes up with a cash-based program, only to disappoint them later? Will it distract rather than add to other more impactful strategies that directly reduce HIV infections among young people? So what I'm questioning is the utility of cash transfers for adolescents for the purpose of preventing HIV directly. I'm questioning the impact of cash transfers for adolescents in different HIV prevalence and different economic contexts. I'm questioning the sustainability of cash transfers for HIV prevention. Who is paying for it? And for how long would they pay for it? Is this a programmatically embedded strategy? Is it policy-backed? Or are we just looking at it in terms of research? Even when you have long follow-up in research, it is still follow-up in research. It's not programmatic follow-up. It's not real-life follow-up. So think about that. So do cash transfers really or specifically reduce HIV infection? Now, don't get pulled into the hype. She's tied scarf. Me sure I should have tied scarf and come here. No, I mean, where I'm from, you actually tie the cloth around your waist, because that's when you know you're ready to fight. But don't get pulled into the hype, okay? Money will positively impact on almost anything, but that is the problem. That is the problem. You sprinkle money anywhere, you will get things to happen, right? It's like having a train that's going to move anyway. A driver is already driving the train, and then you have someone touching the train and walking along with it. What would your conclusion be? That they are pushing the train. Meanwhile, the train is moving. Okay? So putting money in, the money can change a lot of things, but is it actually directly impacting on HIV incidence? Is it that other things are actually the core strategies, the core things that are making change, and money just seems to enhance it, or money just seems to help it? So is money the strategy or money the enabler? Okay? So should we credit cash transfers with reducing HIV infections? For instance, there's keeping girls in school. Keeping girls in school reduces risk of HIV. A lot of us know that. So your thoughts would be that if you give cash transfers that help girls stay in school, then we reduce risk of HIV among these girls. However, in staying in school, they are also physically away from high-risk sexual situations, right? They don't have a lot of time to be doing other things or to be exposed to those risks. So that's one function of being in school that protects against HIV risk. Also, staying in school exposes them to more education, and education changes sexual risk behavior. Education is actually a very sustainable way of getting someone to choose good situations, choose decisions, choose things, even if money is being thrown your way by people like my opponents. You have to make good decisions. I tell my daughter all the time, okay? So, and what about the situation where parents can already afford school fees? What is your cash transfer going to do to make that girl stay in school anymore? Okay? So think about that again. Now, me too, I have evidence. So. I'll not just be standing here and talking anyhow. I have evidence. There are rigorous studies to show that cash transfers do not reduce HIV incidence in young women. Okay? So you must have heard of this very big group that does extremely good research, the HPTN group. Some of you might be in this room. And they reported recently that cash transfers do not actually impact on HIV incidence. And you can see where I've put the red box around it, that in terms of HIV incidence, there was no difference. You can see that, no difference. There's another study that I've put on that slide, also showed no difference. Okay, rigorous studies, no difference. Now, I want to go straight to data from my esteemed opponent. I've intentionally cut it and pasted it. I'm not typing it so that you know it came from there, verbatim. So she did this wonderful study called Woman of Worth. Now let us go to table 2, shall we? Table 2 says impact of WOW on intra-subject, what? Self-reported. Do you know something about self-report? Social desirability. Okay? Meanwhile, she's throwing money at them, Abi. So why would they not tell her what they want her to hear? Okay? But then you look at it, at the end of WOW, so many things are just, P is less than 0.0001. P is everything. But look at their follow-up, second half of the table. Nothing is significant, except what? They were employed. They went and looked for jobs and stayed in the jobs. So, follow-up effect is not being seen. Immediate effect, there might be some positive changes. So, we are thinking of durability and sustainability. Now, cash transfers are palliative, not curative. And even for welfare and well-being, the effects of cash transfers may be obvious, but they are still palliative. Meaning, and palliative means you are relieving pain or relieving the issue without dealing with the cause of the illness. Without dealing with the cause of the illness. Let's deal with the root cause of HIV infections among adolescents. I'll give an example to start with. For instance, even with SDG2, ending hunger, you can give people money to end hunger, right? But if there's no food, they are still going to be hungry. That money is not going to buy anything. So ending hunger should be addressed by making food available. Money is just a means to the end. You get what I'm saying? Sure, you understand. Are you getting me? Good. Okay. So let's deal with the root cause. For example, transactional sex, known to be high risk for HIV. The cause is not poverty. We keep saying it's poverty, the young men are poor. The young women are being taken advantage of by older men, or the young women are choosing sex with the older men because they have no other viable options for sustainment, for life, etc., etc. And I must tell you, there are some young women who are still in transactional relationships, but they are not poor. Am I making sense? They are not poor, but they are still in transactional relationships, and they are still going to get HIV. HIV is no respecter of economic background. Yes, there are poorer people who can have HIV, but it's no respecter of economic background. So what does cash transfers do? What do cash transfers do for people who are a little bit wealthier, who are still at high risk? Okay, so removing cash transfers in this situation, in these kinds of situations, will resurrect the risk. And I didn't have to do the job now. She already did the job for me. She told you that once you withdraw the cash transfers, you are going to have a rebound in whatever incidents or whatever other issue you are trying to reduce. So cash transfers are palliative, they are not curative. So the risk here with the transactional sex is older men with money, okay? Or having no options for young women to be able to have financial security. And it is not only cash transfers. Because those men are giving them cash transfers now. You want to go and give them cash transfers too. Why not get them into in economics, get them a job? And that is what you found in your own study. The only thing that was durable with follow-up was employment. So, HIV from birth or infancy. Let's not forget that a lot of adolescents living with HIV is not simply through sexual transmission or blood transfusion. We are addressing a lot of social issues related to sexual transmission. But there are a lot of adolescents with HIV who got HIV from birth or from infancy. We need to reduce that incidence too. Cash transfers directly to them will not change the fact that mothers are transferring HIV to infants, so infants are obtaining HIV from mothers during the mother's pregnancy, breastfeeding, or shortly thereafter. So we need to reduce incidence of HIV in women and increase early detection for prevention of mother-to-child transmission interventions to protect the infants from mother-to-child transmission. So my concluding statements here, the proposition is that without cash transfers, preventing HIV in adolescents will fail. We can prevent HIV in adolescents without direct cash transfers to them. We can give them cash transfers for other things. We have done it globally, not only in South Africa, for infants in PMTCT programs and have significantly reduced new child HIV infections without using cash transfer programs for their mothers and families. I can attest to that for Nigeria, definitely. Access to services, testing opportunities, drugs and supportive care, peer support, other structural support to facilitate access and retention. Any impact of cash transfers for individuals really is poverty alleviation. Cash transfers are not a good intervention for HIV prevention if they are only working for poor people and communities. As you said, one of the conditions for these cash transfers is that you need to be poor. Why? Don't more wealthy people get HIV? What do other people who are not in this situation, what do they get? Because we know HIV affects people of all economic backgrounds, maybe worse for poor people, but what is missing is not money. They are missing money to attain a certain service, to be in a certain situation that is lower risk for HIV, and that money can prevent. For example, I gave you the example of hunger and food availability. You can have all the money in your hands. If there's no food, you are going to be hungry. So, as we say in Nigeria, no matter how hot your anger is, it cannot cook yams. So, if you feel yourself losing this argument, don't worry. Just work harder, my sister. Thank you very much.